Hi, friends. I'm Jyoti Rajeev. I'm a teacher, psychologist, counselor, and a mentor too. Working in Bhopal, St. Paul's School, Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh, India. Here, I got the topic as inclusive education. So here I live in a cocoon of social making, peeping out at the world from behind a curtain. So as Hans said, so let me explain about two legendary stories. Before that, let me try to show the PPT. Sorry for the interruption. So today's my topic is inclusive education. So before starting inclusive education, let me say about inclusive education. What is inclusive education? Inclusive education is an education approach that strives to address the diverse need of all students, including those with disabilities, backgrounds, learning styles, and preferences. The goal of inclusive education is to create a learning environment where every student feel valued, respected, and supported. This approach rejects the idea of segregation of the students based on their differences and instead promotes the idea of accommodating and embracing diversity within the regular classroom settings. So there are few key principles of inclusive education includes accessibility, diversity, individualization, collaboration, and equity. So accessibility, ensuring every school has to ensure, the educational institutions has to ensure about the educational facilities, materials, and methods are accessible to all students regardless of their abilities or disabilities. Diversity and representation, incorporating a diverse range of that perspectives, culture, and backgrounds in the curriculum to reflect the varied experiences of students. And individualization, recognizing and addressing the unique learning needs of each student through personalizing strategies and support. Collaboration, and we have, as a teacher, we have to educators and support staff to create a sense of community, shared responsibilities for learning. Then equity, striving for fairness, the equal opportunities for all students, regardless of their background and or characteristics. Inclusive education fosters an environment where the students of all abilities learn together, promoting social interaction, empathy, and holistic approach to education that prepares students for active participation in a diverse society. So open your heart and mind like the wings of the butterfly. See then how high you can fly. And our children, disabled children, otherwise any type of these children can fly. So here, inclusive education. Let me share one story on inclusive education. Rohit Rawat. He is BKT, that Bhakshi Ka Talab. 8-year-old Rohit was a mentally challenged boy who hailed from Bahuli village of Bhakshi Ka Talab, Tehsil of Lucknow of India. Before team met with him, he wasn't enrolled in any school and used to roam around within his community for all day. And during the baseline survey done by the Lucknow people, the team learned more about the family background, economical status, physical well being. His father, Mahesh Rawat, was daily wage labor, and mother Geeta Devi was as a housewife. Through our inclusive education program intervention in India, Rohit was enrolled in the class first at primary school in Lucknow. School principal Mrs. Poonam Rastogi cared a lot about him, which he was the Rohit never missed his school during the interaction with these people, the school people, his parent. They came to know that to learn about the positive changes that came in him after getting enrolled at regular school. His grandmother shared that the Rohit used to say, "If I will miss the school, ma'am will be very upset." So this was the thing, and Mrs. Sunita Misha was admired Rohit a lot. Assistant teacher, she was another assistant teacher of that school, and made him feel privileged and special. As a result, he started paying more attention to his schooling, engaging well with his peers, and sometimes even playing the role of the class monitor. So the Rohit medical assessment was done in Mal Block Resources Center in Lucknow, and was identified with mental retardation. The BRC, that team asked him to come again to get a cycle and learn about it. Whenever Rohit bunked the school, and in higher classes, usually children do that, bunking the school, the principal, Mrs. Poonam, inquired about him from his fellow mates, and they usually informed her that they saw him playing games in the village area somewhere, and she then used to send other children to call him back to the school. This is how the school principal ensured the regularity of that particular child in the school. And as Rohit was interested in learning process, his individual education plan was developed, keeping in view his mental level and the ability. Hence, with the help of through the regular assessment and social behavior and life skill, along with robust academic plan, his development was ensured, which is now helping him evolve as a bright and young child from the narrow lane of Bahule village of Lucknow. And next, one more story let me share about Eklavya. Indian people, they may familiar with that name. In the legendary Mahabharata, Eklavya is a youthful ruler of clan or Nishanda clan, and an individual from a low station, and who by and by tries to concentrate on arrow-based weaponry in the Gurukul system of Dronacharya. It was written in Mahabharata. In the wake of being dismissed by Drona, Eklavya lives upon a program of self-concentration within the site of a mud picture of Nishanta clan, and an individual from a low station, and who by and by tries to concentrate on arrow based weaponry in the Gurukul system of Dronacharya. It was written in Mahabharata. In the wake of being dismissed by Drona, Eklavya leaves a sorry. So unfortunate that Eklavya will succeed him, and Arjuna was the asked Drona to make a move there, and Drona goes to Eklavya and requests the Eklavya turn over his right thumb at an educator's expense. The dependable Eklavya handicapped himself and subsequently ruins his possibilities as a bowman by cutting his thumb and giving to Drona as a guru. In Mahabharata, Eklavya is presenting as a youthful ruler of humble Nishanda clan, and Eklavya was brought into the world of sibling of Vasudeva, the Krishna's father, the Lord Krishna's father, and was raised therein that pioneer of King Nishana, who was the leader and multitude of Lord Magadha. And the story is this is what is the story. There you can see from the story of Eklavya, it was learned that the practice makes the man perfect. Not only that, Eklavya was not born with archery talent. So if the talent is not there, still that's we have to include that person, we have to motivate that person to remain there with the other children. And he put his heart, Eklavya put his heart and mind into learning this skill, and by practicing hard he become a very good at it. And another moral of this story is that he is a self monitoring anything. Through self monitoring, anything can achieve. So here also we have to promote these children. So constitutional provisions are there of RTE. The free and compulsory education is necessary of all up to 14 years. That is what is said. And Persons with a Disability Act of 1995 provide access to free education in an appropriate environment for children, for all children with disabilities till they attain the age of 18 years. So international provisions also we can go through. That is the UN Convention Act on the rights of the child of 1989, which sets the children's right in respect of freedom from the discrimination, and in respect of representation of their wishes and views. The UNESCO statement of 1994, which calls on all governments to give the highest priority to inclusive education. The UN Convention on the Right of Persons with Disabilities 2006, which calls on all the state parties to ensure an inclusive education system in all levels. So there are, we can say, the 10 reasons. Inclusive education is a human right. It's a human right. It's good education, and it makes good social sense too. And the first point we can say that inclusive education and human rights. All children have the right to learn together. Children should not be devalued or discriminate against their difficulty or disorder or disability, discriminate and don't describing themselves as a special school survivor, and are demanding an end to segregation, and there are no legitimate reasons to separate children for their education. Children belonging together with advantages and benefits to everyone. They do not need to be protected from each other. So second point, we can say that inclusive education and good education. So the research shows that the children do better academically and socially and integrated setting in an integrated setting. So research shows that the inclusive education is a good education. The researchers shows that academically, research shows that children do better academically and socially in integrated setting. There is no teaching or care in a segregated school which cannot take place in an ordinary school. And given commitment and support, inclusive education is more efficient use of educational resources. And as the third one, 10 points I told you, the third one we can say that inclusive educations and good social sense. Segregation teaches children to be fearful. Never segregate children. You are disabled. You cannot learn this. And we don't segregate the children like that. And fearful, ignorant, and breed prejudice. You cannot prejudice. All children need an education that will help them develop relationship and prepare them for life in the mainstream. Only inclusions has the potential to reduce fear and build friendship, respect, and understanding. And next, government initiatives are a lot of government initiatives are there. So the plans are revised plans are there for inclusive education for children and youth with the disabilities. So modify the existing physical infrastructure. So if you include that type of children in the school, we have to make the infrastructure also that way. Instead of the steps, you can suppose a disabled child with disability is there in the legs or the hands. So in that way, you have to help them infrastructure, make a change in the infrastructure and teaching methodology to meet their needs to all children, including children with special needs. 3% seat reserved in all the institutions receiving funds from the government. And by 2022, by 2024, all the schools in the country in India will be made disabled friendly and have barrier free access, including hostels, libraries, laboratories, buildings, etc. Availability of study material also for the disabled, talking textbooks, reading machines, computers will speech software along with adequate number of braille system and changes in curriculum and pedagogy, and need to sensitize teachers also to require their children with the special needs by including it as a competent of regular in-service training of teachers in inclusive education. So, inclusive education means that a developmental approach in education it is. Schools should accommodate all regardless of their physical, intellectual, and social, emotional, linguistic, and other condition. This should include disabled and gifted children, street and working children, and children from remote or nomadic population, children from linguistic, ethnic, or cultural minorities, and children from other disadvantaged or marginalized areas or groups. So, in the broad sense, encompassing meaning, inclusive education is an approach to seek, address the learning needs of all children. It implies all learners, young people with or without disabilities being able to learn together through access to government preschool, previous schools, or the community educational setting with appropriate network of support devices, services. A flexible educational system is also necessary. Aim at all stakeholders in the system means learners, parents, community, teachers, administrators, policymakers, and to be comfortable with the diversity and support and welcome diversity among all learners. Providing the necessary support for growth and development is the responsibility of all the government. So education through the inclusion lens, you can see seeing education through the inclusion lens implies a shift from seeing the child as a problem to seeing the education system as the problem that can be solved through inclusive approaches. So suppose child has a problem, then different from other children, he may be different from other children, he has the special needs and does not respond properly and he cannot learn like a normal child. So is a chance of exclusion of the child from the school. So education system, as if suppose the education system is a problem, how it will be, the not occupied education system, the particular institution may not be occupied to handle this diversity, and a lack of teaching aid and the training equipments maybe, and does not respond and cannot teach this particular type of children. In this case, inaccessible environment excluding the child. So there are methods are there for excluding that child from the institution. So understanding the process of inclusion through these steps, we can say. So first is denial, second is acceptance, third is understanding, then only the knowledge comes. So the denial, first exclusion, first the institution or the group exclude that particular child, then slowly either the group, their peer group, otherwise the institution slowly start accepting it. And then understanding means that through integration the special needs will be there, then slowly understand the particular child, then through the knowledge education for all, that is the knowledge. So the school can include that child stepwise. This is what is the stepwise exclusion to inclusion. And the main features of inclusive educations are all students can learn and benefit from education. Schools adapt to the need of students rather than students adapting to the needs of the school. Individual differences between the students are the source of richness and diversity, and not a problem people have to take in that sense. And the diversity of needs and the peace of development of students are addressed through a wide and flexible range of responses. So long as those responses do not include removing the students with a disability from the general education classroom. So whereas the benefits are also there to the students without special education needs, that is the SEN. So the benefits of inclusion of students without SEN are there. The points are there. The students without SEN means the special education needs, have a variety of opportunities for interacting with peers of their own age with experience of SEN in inclusive school setting, and they may serve as peer tutor during instructional activities, and they may play the role of a special buddy for the children with SEN during lunch, in the bus, or in the playground. So children with the SEN can learn a good deal about the tolerance, individual differences. If you give the chance for that particular child, he learn a lot, type of tolerance, individual differences, and human exceptionality by interacting with those with SEN. And children without SEN can learn. The students with SEN have many positive characteristics and abilities. So that's all. Then the role of a school in inclusive. What may be the role of a school in education? The school can make inclusion happens by playing a proactive role in terms of the some actions, removing physical barriers posted by stairs, doorways, toilets with facets and other architectural aspects. Then removing the barriers of the teaching system by providing facilities for accessing information related to the curriculum by the use of modern technologies like computer, using specialized software, by providing awareness, sensitivity, and solutions for teachers. So we need to give the training for the teachers also to handle these type of children. They never ignore. And removing the barrier of examination system by providing means of the free and fair evaluation of the students' knowledge irrespective of his or her sensory or physical status, removing barriers of attitude developed due to lack of awareness. Then, of course, there is a prominent role for the teacher too. The open file or inclusive education, UNESCO 2001 suggests that the few demands be placed on teachers from the perspectives of inclusive curricula. They have to become involved in curriculum in development at the level, local level, and they have to be skilled in curriculum adaptation in their own classrooms, and they have to manage a complex range of classroom activities. They have to know how to support their student learning without giving them predetermined answers, and they have to work outside traditional subjects boundaries and the culturally sensitive ways. So in the term of specific competence, research says that the teachers in an inclusive classroom should have the ability to problem solve. That is the first thing. The teacher should know how to solve the problem and to be able to informally assess the skill a child need rather than relying solely on standardized curriculum, and ability to take advantage. The teacher need the ability to take the advantages of children's individual interest and use their internal motivation for developing requirement skills, ability to set high but alternative expectations that are suitable for the students. This means developing alternative assessments, ability to make appropriate expectations for each student, regardless of their students' capabilities. If teachers can do this, it allows all students to be included in a classroom situation, in a classroom, and even in school too. And teachers need the ability to learn how to value all kinds of skills that students bring to the class, not just an academic skill. In doing this, teachers will make it explicit that the classroom they value all skills. So also teachers must be able to recognize and respond the diversity, accommodate the particular child, be aware of the right of the students with education support need, and locate the appropriate material, equipment, and the specialities, and identify, overcome barriers to learn, consult with develop partnership with the parents, caregivers, and colleagues, use the appropriate forms of assessments, and special type of assessment have to give for this include that this type of children, adapt their instructions to the prior knowledge and belief of student, create an inclusive community that extend beyond the walls of the school, and seek to enhance the self-esteem of all students. So I can observe carefully, teacher can observe carefully, she can change the strategy, she can adapt the curriculum materials when required to suit the need of different students, and hands-on approach that maximize the use of all senses. So and collaborative work, the students according to the students experience, have to see the success of the student. So use a pleasant tone of voice and provide a leadership opportunity, teach appropriate social skills to the children, and keep direction briefly and clearly, and provide reinforcement, ensure the success for all. So these are the teachers have to take care of that type of things, and there are some fundamentals are there. So why inclusion is about, what inclusion is about, inclusion is always is about making a provision for all, about providing for some children and not excluding any, and welcoming and celebrating diversity, improving quality of education for all, enabling all children dignity, confidence, and learn, making all realize their base right to education, selecting inclusive learning tasks and pedagogical practices, never exclude anybody, removing physical, social, attitudinal barriers. So inclusion is not about providing for some only, and about considering diversity as a burden, and improving quality of education for some, So these are the partiality which teacher is doing in the classroom. It is negative point for the teacher and for the children and for the educational institution. So anyway, inclusive education is a human right. It's a good education. It makes good social sense. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks, my dear. I hope it is clear for you. And in India, you may know that the father of inclusive education is Montessori. She's an Italian physician and
You
an
may know that
educator.
the father of inclusive education is Montessori. She's an
And
Italian
what is
physician.
CBSE
You may know
policy
that
on
the father of
education, inclusive
education is
education is
Montessori.
actually the policy recommend inclusion and equal participation of CWS in across the stages of school education and that of to the end and endorse a whole school approach to inclusion such as resourcing school complexes and resourcing centers, engagement of special educators, capacity building of teachers and special educators there too for the teaching. And three main type of inclusive educations are inclusions means that all students receive equal access to education. And three main models of including students with the disabilities are the mainstream classrooms, are full inclusion and partial inclusion and mainstream inclusion. And what are the role of a teacher in inclusive? That all things I explained well there, I hope. And the first step is inclusive in an inclusive setting. The stage for an inclusive classroom and teachers play the pivotal role in creating the environment where every students feel welcome, respected, and valued. This means using inclusive language, promoting empathy, and fostering a culture of acceptance. So, thank you. Thanks a lot.